If a narcissist says these wild things to you, you have truly won, you've changed, and I don't like it. They say it like it's an insult, like it's something to be ashamed of, but what they don't understand is that change is your rebirth. That phrase, "you've changed," is one of the greatest compliments you will ever receive, especially when it comes from someone who once manipulated, controlled, or silenced you. You didn't change to hurt them. You changed to finally heal you. That comment is a confession. It means your old habits, the ones that kept you small and afraid and obedient, no longer exist. It means you no longer crumble under guilt when you say no. It means your voice has weight now, your presence has power, you're not shrinking anymore when the narcissist says they don't like it. What they're really saying is, "I liked you better broken." Let that settle in your soul. Because people who truly love you, they celebrate your evolution, they clap for your healing. Only those who benefited from your pain would see your growth as a threat. You've stepped out of their control zone. The rules they wrote no longer apply to you. They built a reality where your needs came last, where your silence was more valuable than your voice. But now you've flipped the script. You've rewritten the narrative. They can feel it in your energy. They can sense it in your posture. The way you carry yourself now makes them uncomfortable, not because you're being arrogant, but because you finally understand your value. You no longer entertain manipulation. You no longer justify mistreatment. That scares them. They can no longer use guilt to twist your emotions. They can no longer use praise to pull your strings. You've become emotionally bulletproof. And every time they say, "You've changed," it's a flare going off in their fragile ego, proof they've lost control. The change they see is not just on the outside, it's deeper, it's spiritual, it's soul-level transformation. You've realigned with your truth. You've cut off the fuel supply they once fed on your doubt, your confusion, your dependence. Now you're standing in clarity. They might try to sabotage your confidence, make you question your strength, but you already know what this is. It's the final echo of their fading control, and that phrase, "I don't like it," is their inner panic manifesting through words. It's not a statement. It's a scream. Don't fall for the guilt trap. Don't second guess your progress. You didn't come this far to become someone's emotional punching bag again. This change cost you. It was earned through pain, tears, courage, and truth. You sacrificed who you were to become who you were always meant to be. Your glow now is unsettling to those who tried to dim your light. Your peace feels threatening to the one who only knew how to thrive in chaos. They don't recognize you, and that's a good thing, because you're not the same person who once begged for their validation. Every step forward you've taken has widened the gap between who you were and who you are now. That distance isn't your loss, it's your salvation. The discomfort they feel around your transformation is the exact proof you needed that you're on the right path. You're not here to make them comfortable. You're here to make yourself whole. And if they can't accept the healed version of you, that's their burden to carry, not yours. Your life isn't a cage anymore. It's a declaration. You've chosen yourself, and that choice is powerful. So when they look at you with contempt or confusion and say, "You've changed," say nothing, just smile, because you know the truth. That statement is your graduation speech from their manipulation. And you earned every syllable of it with blood, boundaries, and bravery. The only thing scarier to a narcissist than losing control of you is watching you realize you never needed them to be complete in the first place. And now that you've changed, you can never be unchanged. That bell can't be unrung. You've crossed over, you're awake, and you're not going back. You've changed, and that's the most dangerous thing you could have ever done in their world. Because now you're free. When a narcissist asks you this loaded question, understand it's not curiosity, it's accusation. It's a projection wrapped in insecurity, because deep down they know the answer. You've risen, you've grown, you've evolved beyond the version of yourself they could manipulate, and that terrifies them. This question doesn't come from a place of genuine inquiry. It comes from ego erosion. It comes from watching the person they once controlled now stand in full power. It's not that you think you're better, it's that you know you deserve better. There's a massive difference. What they're really expressing is fear. Fear that they're losing significance in your life, fear that you've woken up to the game, fear that their words no longer shape your identity, because when someone's power over you was built on your self-doubt, confidence becomes their worst nightmare. This question is their last attempt to pull you back into the mental cage, to reintroduce guilt, to make you feel arrogant for simply choosing yourself. But don't bite the bait. You're not the one who sees yourself as better, they do. And it's driving them mad. You used to walk on eggshells around this person. You used to over-explain, over-apologize, over-function. Now you're calm, grounded, detached from the drama, and that serenity, it's louder than any scream. It echoes through their crumbling control. You're not trying to win over them. You're not in competition. But the narcissist can only view relationships through a lens of power and status. So when you rise in self-worth, they feel as though they're sinking. Your growth becomes their perceived defeat. They want you to flinch, to backtrack, to explain yourself. Don't let silence be your strength. Let your peace provoke them. Let your progress remain uninterrupted. You owe them no justification for your healing, your boundaries, your joy. This question is an invitation back into their narrative. Decline it. You've outgrown the storyline where they're the center and you're the satellite. Now you're orbiting something greater, your truth, and that shift burns them from the inside. They want to reframe your power as arrogance. They want to weaponize humility against you. But the truth is, the most humble thing you've ever done is walk away without revenge. The most noble thing you've ever done is choose peace over proving your point. The narcissist thrives on false superiority. So when they see you standing tall without their approval, it threatens the illusion. You don't need to be better than them because you've stopped needing their permission to be whole. That's what they can't comprehend. Don't internalize their projection. Don't let their bitterness pollute your progress. You don't need to respond to their question with words. Let your energy answer for you. Let your healed presence become the loudest declaration. I am not in competition with you. I'm on a different path. What they feel as judgment is actually your detachment. What they interpret as superiority is simply your refusal to engage in toxicity. You're not above them, you're beyond their reach, and that distinction is powerful. You no longer react the way you used to. That's what unsettles them. You no longer need their validation. That's what enraged them. Your life now operates from clarity, not confusion, from boundaries, not fear, and they don't recognize this version of you because it's not someone they built. You're not better than anyone. You're just finally being better to yourself. And for someone who only knew how to feed on your self-neglect, that shift feels like betrayal, but let them wrestle with their discomfort. It's not your responsibility to explain your glow to those who once dimmed your light. So when they say, you think you're better than me now, let your soul smile quietly because you know the truth. It's not about being better than them. It's about no longer needing them to feel worthy. That's the true win. Nobody else will love you the way I did. When a narcissist says this, it sounds like a warning, a haunting echo meant to paralyze your hope. But really, it's a twisted confession. What they mean is, nobody else will tolerate what you tolerated. Nobody else will let me take and never give. This is not a statement of your worth, it's an admission of their dysfunction. They want you to believe that the chaos they brought into your life was some rare form of passion. They want to rewrite the pain as devotion, the abuse as intensity, the manipulation as love. But make no mistake, what you experienced wasn't love. It was control dressed in flattery, pain served on a plate of promises. Love doesn't leave you doubting your value. Love doesn't make you feel small so someone else can feel big. Love doesn't threaten to leave just to watch you beg. And when they say, nobody else will love you like I did, it's not a compliment, it's a threat disguised as nostalgia. This statement is rooted in fear, not yours, but theirs. Fear that you'll find someone who will treat you with kindness, not conditions. Fear that you'll wake up and realize that the love they offered was crumbs when you deserved a banquet, and that realization, that's their undoing. They say it like they're the best you'll ever have, but the truth is, they were your biggest lesson, not your greatest gift. They were the mirror that showed you what love should never feel like. And now that you've seen it clearly, you won't be fooled again. You see, when they say no one else will love you like they did, it's actually true, and thank God for that. Because what they gave wasn't love, it was possession, it was performance, it was a cycle of highs and lows that left you breathless, not from joy, but from exhaustion. You didn't leave because you didn't love them. You left because you finally loved yourself enough to stop bleeding for someone who wouldn't even hand you a bandage. And now they're panicking because the version of you that accepted their bare minimum no longer exists. This statement is a manipulation tactic, a desperate last swing of their power. They want to plant a seed of doubt in your heart. They want you to wonder, what if they're right? But you already know. If that was love, it nearly destroyed you. And real love heals, it doesn't hurt. You're not hard to love. You were just loving the wrong person. Someone who made you work for their affection while they made you feel guilty for having needs. Someone who turned your compassion into a weapon and used your loyalty like a leash. Now you're rebuilding brick by brick, truth by truth, and every time they say something like this, it's another reminder that you made the right choice. You escaped the masquerade, you saw behind the mask. And once you see the truth, you can never unsee it. You deserve a love that doesn't come with a list of conditions, a love that doesn't punish you for speaking your truth, a love that doesn't ask you to abandon yourself just to be enough for someone else's brokenness. That love is out there, and it starts with how you treat yourself. This isn't just about romantic love, it's about self-love. Because now, when someone says, "Nobody else will love you like I did," you don't crumble. You smile because you finally understand their kind of love was a prison and now you're free. Let them believe what they need to believe. You're not responsible for their delusions. You're responsible for your healing. You're responsible for choosing the people who nourish you, not drain you. You're responsible for protecting the peace you bled to earn. You're not afraid of being alone anymore because you know the difference between solitude and suffering. And in your own company, you found something the narcissist could never give you: safety, peace, and authenticity. No more masks, no more games. So the next time they say, "Nobody else will love you the way I did," let it roll off your spirit like rain. Because now you know that wasn't love, that was survival, and your heart was made for so much more than survival. It was made to thrive. You ruined my life. When a narcissist says this to you, it's not a declaration of truth. It's a desperate cry for control. It's the thunderous wail of someone who's lost the power to manipulate you, and now they're scrambling to rewrite the story with you as the villain. But don't be fooled. This isn't about the life you ruined. It's about the illusion you shattered. What you actually ruined was their ability to dominate your thoughts, to control your emotions, to sculpt your self-worth into something they could mold for their benefit. That's what's broken now. That's what's slipping through their fingers, and they're furious about it. They painted a picture where they were the victim, the misunderstood, unappreciated savior who gave everything. But behind that story was a darker truth. They took far more than they gave, and you finally stopped allowing it. You pulled the plug on the performance, and now the stage is collapsing. "You ruined my life" is an accusation rooted in entitlement. It's the voice of someone who believed they owned you, who believed they had the right to your silence, your sacrifice, your soul. And when you said enough, it wasn't just rebellion to them, it was betrayal. They don't want accountability, they want a scapegoat. And because you were once the most loyal, the most forgiving, the most compassionate, they think you'll absorb their blame, but not anymore. You've grown. You've healed. You've realized that their pain is not your responsibility. Let's be real, if your absence could ruin their life, then what kind of life were they living? one built on dependency, not partnership. One where they needed you to stay broken so they could feel whole. That's not love, that's emotional parasitism, and you chose liberation over enabling. What they're really saying is this: I no longer get to use you. They miss your empathy, your compliance, your willingness to put their needs before your own. And when that supply runs dry, they lash out with guilt grenades. But guilt is no longer your compass. Truth is. You didn't ruin anything. You exposed the rot. You walked away from the theater of falsehood and stopped playing your assigned role. And when the lights came on, they weren't ready for the mirror staring back at them. That's what they call ruin, being forced to face themselves. You see, narcissists don't do well when their narratives collapse. They crumble under self-reflection because their entire identity is stitched together with denial. And when you stop playing along, you become a threat to the fantasy. That's why they attack. That's why they blame. But here's the truth: people who own their lives, who take responsibility for their choices, don't go around saying, "You ruined my life." They say, "This happened, and here's what I learned, here's how I'll grow." That's what power looks like, and it's something they've never developed. They'll tell anyone who will listen that you destroyed them. But those who know you, those who see your light, your integrity, your resilience, they'll see through the smear. The truth always outlives the lie, and your life is the evidence of that. You're not here to carry their regret. You're not here to rehabilitate their reputation. You're here to reclaim your peace, your purpose, your power. You didn't ruin a life, you rescued your own. And that, right there, is the greatest win of all. Every step you took away from the chaos was a step toward clarity. Every boundary you enforced was a brick in the foundation of your freedom. And now that you're standing tall, they want to drag you back into the pit. But you've seen the sky. You know what breathes up here. So when they say, "You ruined my life," let it fall flat. Let it echo into the void from which it came. Because the truth is, you interrupted the cycle. You broke the curse, and maybe, just maybe, their life needed to be ruined for the real one to begin, the one they'll have to build without feeding on someone else. You didn't ruin their life. You revealed their lies. You didn't destroy anything sacred. You just stopped protecting their dysfunction. And that's not sabotage. That's self-respect. You've changed, and not for the better. When a narcissist tells you you've changed and not for the better, what they really mean is this: you've stopped playing by my rules. That statement isn't about your growth. It's about their loss of control. It's a desperate attempt to shame you back into submission, but it won't work anymore. You see, change is terrifying to a narcissist, especially when it means they can no longer manipulate you like they used to. When you evolve, when you start choosing peace over chaos, clarity over confusion, and love over sacrifice, they panic. Not because you've done something wrong, but because they no longer recognize the person they could once control. They liked the version of you that apologized when you weren't wrong. The version of you that stayed quiet to keep the peace. The one that dimmed their light so someone else wouldn't feel insecure. But that version of you is gone, and they can't stand that you had the courage to evolve. You've changed, is their code for you're no longer easy to manipulate. And not for the better. Just means you've stopped tolerating their toxic patterns. Growth looks like rebellion to those who benefited from your silence. Don't let them convince you your healing is a problem. Here's the truth you were supposed to change. You were never meant to stay small, afraid, or shackled to someone else's dysfunction. Change is the price of freedom, and you paid it in full with tears, late nights, difficult choices, and fierce boundaries. Now they call that change bad because it no longer benefits them. When someone accuses you of changing for the worse, it's often because your evolution reveals their stagnation. Your confidence highlights their insecurity. Your strength makes their cowardice louder. Your wholeness makes their fragmentation harder to ignore. You've become a mirror they don't want to face. You see, People who genuinely care about your well-being cheer you on when you grow. They don't punish you for outgrowing dysfunction. They don't accuse you of betrayal when you prioritize your health and happiness. So when the narcissist says you've changed, take it as confirmation you've upgraded your life. What they're really mourning isn't you, it's the version of you that accepted their chaos. The version that settled for breadcrumbs. The one who forgave too easily and loved too unconditionally. They're not grieving your presence. They're grieving their ability to manipulate you without resistance. You've become someone who can't be gaslit, who doesn't chase people who hurt them, who sets boundaries with confidence. That's the change they hate. That's the change that sets you free, and guess what? That's the version of you the world needs, fully alive, fully awake, fully you. Don't shrink just because someone doesn't like your expansion. Don't go back to who you were just because it made others comfortable. That person was surviving. This one is thriving. This one knows their worth. This one doesn't need external validation to feel whole. You changed because you had to, because the old you was exhausted, overlooked, and breaking down under the weight of pretending to be okay. Now you walk different, talk different, live different, because now you've seen what life feels like when you stop abandoning yourself. They say you've changed, and you say, thank God. Because that change is your revolution. That change is your rebirth. That change is your declaration that you will never again betray yourself for someone else's comfort. So let them talk, let them judge, let them say you've changed, because you have. And that change is your power, that change is your freedom song, that change is the doorway to the life you were always meant to live. You were never good enough anyway. This phrase is nuclear. It's what a narcissist says when their world of illusion has crumbled, and their manipulation has no place left to hide. When they've lost their grip on you, when their charm has no effect, when their shame tactics have failed, they go for the jugular. They say the most vicious thing they can think of, not because it's true, but because they're trying to claw back power through emotional devastation. But here's what you need to understand at your core. This isn't a reflection of you. It's a projection of them. When they say you were never good enough, they are confessing something deeply broken within themselves. They're revealing the very lie they carry, that they are not enough, that they are empty, that they are terrified someone like you might wake up and walk away, and you did. So now they try to rewrite the script, not to uplift their reality, but to pull you back into their sinking narrative. This isn't about truth, it's about punishment. You dared to set boundaries. You dared to leave. You dared to heal. And nothing enraged a narcissist more than watching someone they tried to break rise like a phoenix from the ashes of their abuse. So they sling this final insult, hoping it will pierce your spirit, hoping it will reverse your progress. But it won't, not anymore, because you are no longer available for lies wrapped in cruelty. You know who you are. You know what you gave. You know how hard you fought to stay, to understand, to fix things that were never yours to fix. And now that you've chosen yourself, you will not be dragged back by words dipped in venom. You were never good enough anyway is not just a lie, it's a last resort. It's an attempt to invalidate your entire journey, your worth, your truth. But your truth doesn't need their permission to exist. It lives in your courage. It lives in your resilience. It lives in the light that kept glowing even when they tried to smother it. They say you were never good enough because they've lost access to someone magnificent, someone radiant, someone whose heart they once consumed without gratitude, and now they can't stand to see you shine where they no longer cast a shadow. This kind of statement is meant to trigger old wounds they probably helped create. It's designed to awaken insecurities you've been healing. But here's the power move. When they speak those words, and you no longer react, you've won. Because you've stopped accepting poison as truth. Let it bounce off the armor of your new self. The self that no longer internalizes abuse. The self that knows that if someone tries to degrade your worth after benefiting from your love, their words are meaningless. They are echoes of their own inadequacy. You were more than good enough. You were the blessing they mishandled. the miracle they mistook for property, and now they realize that. That's why they attack, because deep down, they know they lost something rare, and they want to convince you that it was worthless to make the loss sting less. But don't take the bait. This is the finish line of your healing arc. This is where you no longer chase apologies, no longer beg for clarity, no longer explain your heart to people committed to misunderstanding it. You simply move on stronger, freer, unshakable. Remember, someone who truly believes you're not good enough doesn't need to tell you, they just walk away. But someone who screams it on the way out is still trying to control the narrative. And the more they say it, the more they prove that you were the powerful one all along. So let them speak their last words of venom. You've already outgrown their story. You've already stepped into the next chapter. You've already become someone they can't reach, not because you're cruel, but because you're healed, and that is the ultimate victory. You've heard the wildest things a narcissist can throw at you, and if you're hearing them, it's because you've already won. You've broken the cycle, you've reclaimed your voice, you've become immune to manipulation. That is power, that is freedom, that is you, fully awakened. You heard the wildest lies because you chose the boldest freedom, so here you are standing in the aftermath of battle. The echo of their words still ringing, you'll regret this. No one will love you like I did. You ruined everything. You're crazy. You've changed, and not for the better. You were never good enough anyway. And yet, here you still stand. Let me tell you something undeniable. If you've heard these wild accusations from a narcissist, it's because you've already crossed the finish line. You've already risen. You've already become someone they can no longer exploit, dominate, or define. That's why they lash out with desperation disguised as insults, because their control is gone and your power is back. You didn't crumble under their threats. You didn't fold under their manipulations. You stood in the fire and let it forge you, not consume you. You didn't just survive them, you outgrew them. You transformed their chaos into clarity, their destruction into direction, their cruelty into courage. You dared to believe that your worth isn't up for debate. You dared to believe that being alone is better than being devalued. You dared to believe that your healing matters more than their comfort, and that is why you win. Not because they said you were crazy or selfish or too sensitive, but because none of it shook your decision to rise. Every word they screamed was a mirror of their loss. Every attack was a confession, and every attempt to drag you back was confirmation that you finally walked away for the last time. So when they say these wild things, let them. It means you've reclaimed your story. You are not broken. You are reborn. You are not weak. You are wise. You are not hard to love. You just finally stopped settling for conditional, manipulative love. And as you step forward into the next chapter of your life, you carry more than scars. You carry wisdom. You carry insight. You carry the unshakable strength of someone who's walked through the fire and came out holding their truth like a sword. So walk tall, speak boldly, and love yourself ferociously. Because if the narcissist had to resort to these wild, vicious words, it means you're free. And that freedom, that's your greatest victory.